My guest today is considered guitar jazz royalty in the Netherlands. It's been said many, many times, but it bears repeating. He won the Thelonious Monk Award back in 1995 with a jury that included none other than Pat Martino, Jim Hall, John Scofield, and Pat Metheny. What's less often mentioned is that Pat Metheny himself called his mother to persuade him to move to New York. He didn't take that advice, but instead built an extraordinary career here in the Netherlands. Welcome to this episode, Jesse van Ruller. Jesse, how are you doing?
Good.
About that call, I want to start there.
Well, I wasn't there, so I don't know. But my mom told me, there was a phone call for you. It took me a while to know, to understand who it was. It was in English, and so turned out it was Pat calling for me. And but as I wasn't there, he just talked to my mom and told her the story of what he thought I should do. So this was quite shortly after the Monk competition. Yeah, a long time ago. So I don't really remember that detailed anymore. But
let's start there in that era, so to say, right? You won that award in 1995.
Yeah, I was 23, so it's 30 years ago. So it's really I've done more than.
No, we'll go there. But I can imagine it has been a pivotal moment in your career.
I think for anybody really at that age. You're just at the start of your career. If you're a musician, I just graduated my, music university, and I was starting to be active on the scene and playing a lot of bands. So I guess that's for most people of that age that are musicians or want to be musicians, it's an important time. And of course, me winning that competition or any competition, it helps, but it's not, it's not everything. So it helped me for sure, getting my name out, here in Holland. I got a lot of attention from the press. So that, helped me getting gigs, helped me getting started.
In that same year, your teacher, Wim Overgouw, passed away. You took over his lessons at the conservatory?
Some of it, yeah.
Okay, some of it.
Not just me, but some young guitarists took over. So it was me and Martijn van Iterson.
Yeah.
Was, about the same age, the Dutch guitarist, great jazz guitarist. And so we started teaching a little bit. I've always done it since, but not a lot. So like an afternoon a week or so,
Prior to that?
No, since then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the start of it.
Yeah.
So I've been teaching on that school ever since. So still doing that.
You said okay, it's a long time ago, but still, because Wim Overgouw was very influential figure, right, in your early.
Yeah, he was my teacher
days.
for about 5 years. So I'm between 18 and 23. Yeah.
And what? Because I can imagine if you're relatively young and somebody passes away and you take over his lesson, what did that mean to you back then?
Well, the taking over lessons was just really helping out. Didn't feel like it was his legacy. It was the teaching,
Mm-hmm.
although that was our relationship, of course, at that of, he was my mentor and teacher. So, like I said, the teaching was helping out. Wasn't really. It was when I think of him is mostly his playing and our lessons together, and that consisted mostly of playing together. He was self-taught, and his lessons were the most valuable lessons I got from him. Were really through like nonverbal, just playing with him and feeling how he played, his rhythm, his lines, the feel, So that's how he transferred his experience and knowledge on to me.
Did he make you feel relaxed also in those lessons?
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think? In what way did he do that?
Well, he was just a nice person. He was as I knew him, he was if you have known each other for so long, you get more comfortable with each other. Even though he was my teacher, we did have that kind of. It wasn't like we were friends, but we were friendly. I came to his house, and he invited some of his students at his house to have pizza, and we would play together. He would, show me what he was working on, his new compositions. He was using a lot of MIDI at the time.
Yeah.
This is in the early 90s. So, but he was pretty hip for his age, like using electronics and making electronic music with MIDI, and even trying to do that live. And yeah, so he was constantly working on new stuff, and he was a big fan of Steve Coleman, Gary Thomas, the whole M-bass, hip hop, jazz combination, and which was pretty hip for someone his age. He was in his 70s. Yeah.
I think he died at
not his 70s.
So,
60s. Yeah. He was in his 60s. Yeah. So, yeah. So what you were asking, was I relaxed with him? And yeah, absolutely. And I hope, anybody that teaches or, makes the student feel comfortable. At least I try to, if I can.
So because from that moment onwards, you started teaching also?
Yeah. It's always been like a very little bit,
Yeah, but okay, a part, but still, it's part of your musicianship, so to say.
Yeah.
Right? Did you have to learn that also to teach?
Yes. Yeah.
What helped?
I'm not sure. Just getting older. No, I don't think of, like he was not a very systematical teacher. And neither am I. So probably because of, the way he taught. And I've become maybe better at, like putting into words what I think somebody should, like how to help somebody by talking to them rather than only playing together and hoping something will stick, which I still also believe in. You can't put everything into words. But I've, as you become older, I guess, you grow as a musician, so you have more experience, and that's it.
There's a word that many guitarists in this series often mention, and it's obsessed. The word obsessed. And I heard you say it in interviews as well. Before you were going to conservatory, you were obsessed with the guitar.
Yeah, I think an obsession can be a negative word, but I never experienced any negativity of it. But I've been obsessed, like extremely interested, and it was always very fulfilling. Spending a lot of time on the guitar. I still do it. I still play a lot of guitar just for fun. Like before you came here, trying to figure out how to play this little Italian melody that my daughter sings on her singing lesson. Like, I can find some chords with it. It's a nice melody, So I'm constantly, figuring out stuff on the guitar. It's just something. It's so much part of my whole imagination by now. I've been doing it so long, but I've always had it from the start. Like when I was starting to play guitar, I've been very happy holding a guitar and figuring out stuff. Yeah,
that's a magical thing about an instrument, maybe the guitar in particular, right? That it can make you feel happy just to have it in your hands, right?
Yes.
Can you go back to when you first really had that feeling? Was that from the get-go when you started playing, or did it? Okay.
Yeah. I've been always not obsessed, but I've always been super interested in the guitar. It's always had the simplicity, I guess, just the whole, like the vibrations and the fact that it's so clear, you make the string shorter and it's higher, and it's has a great visual aspect to it, the guitar. I think the simplicity is something I very much like about it.
It's interesting because some players mention, it's a complex instrument.
Well, like if you go deeper, of course, but in its essence, it's a string. Well, there's 6 of them, but one string, you know, under tension makes a sound, and like if you're going out on a fence and you pull the fence and it vibrates as a sound, it's just the guitar is the same, and then with the frets, on the right spots, so you get you can play a scale or you can play a little melody. So in its essence, it's a super simple instrument, right? I mean, you can see how it works different than on the piano, even though it's the same concept.
Yeah,
but you can't really see it. Yeah, it's much more complex. There's a whole mechanism involved, like how the string is put into vibration. And the guitar is just so
it's almost
basic.
like a drum also that also gives instant gratification, right?
Well, exactly, yeah. And I wanted to be a drummer before I played guitar. Yeah.
That's also what a lot of guitar players tell me.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. How about?
I don't know. It's my parents played a lot of music, pop music from the 60s and 70s, and at home, records.
They weren't musicians themselves,
no.
right? Okay.
And so I listened to that, and so I grew up with that, and I particularly liked the drums. And my dad would ask me, like, what do you hear, or what do you like? What instrument do you like? And I remember that question, and I always said the drums, and he always said, I think the guitar. And then, I guess you're at that age, your dad is right. Well, I had the drum set. I had a drum set, even though it came from I guess more of a toy shop than it wasn't really a professional set, but it was, and it fell apart. And then my dad would fix it with wood and screws to hold things together. And then we had an uncle that he had a cymbal. He gave me a cymbal. And after a few years of that, I wanted to take guitar lessons. So it was really I think it really came out of listening to all that music, that guitar-based music,
So you kind of missed that melodic aspect of the guitar.
I have no idea. I mean, back then, I was probably just, cool. Guitar, cool. I don't know. There was no
drums is cool. I
was 7, So.
But still, the appealing thing to the drums was also that instant gratification. I beat it, and I have some sort of control also of what's going on.
Yeah, right? And just the fact that it's loud, I guess, and just has an impact. That's
That's also interesting because if loud, some of your music, more recent compositions have been louder.
It's not louder, though.
It sounds different, maybe, then.
It sounds different, but it's softer because there's no drums.
Oh, yeah, of course.
We play pretty soft. Yeah.
I'm thinking about
I use a small amp, but it sounds big.
I'm thinking about Follow the Sound, which is your a track also on your latest album.
Yeah. Sounds big, but it's a little small amp like that. It's
that's interesting. Okay, it's improvisation. This conversation. Let's talk about that track because that. No, let me rephrase that question. Because that track to me sounds like something. Wow, that's something new, right? It's something that's not like you've done before.
Right. No, well, it's not. It is like I've done before, but not necessarily on my own jazz records.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but I do play a lot of different styles of music. Like for me, it's like just different parts of. It's not even different. It's like one. For me, it's all the same. Basically, it's coming from the same source of imagination, and I've listened to so much music. I like so much different stuff. Anyway, so. After playing a lot of jazz music, what at some point what I get bored of a little bit is the fact that it's always like about the soloing, and there is this element of kind of show off in that music that is baked in it. It's like of course, there is music that's other music that is technically difficult or fast or whatever, and but in jazz it's very much about like now you show what you can do, now you show what you can do, and now you show what you can do. That a little bit of, there's some of that at some point feels like, all right, there we go again, So I was a little, I don't know, maybe felt like the need to something else. And there was this guy, Blake Mills, that I'm a big fan of, and he made a few records. And one of the records is with Pino Palladino and
nice player.
Sam Gandel, guys from LA, and Sam is, and they make some kind of jazz record. I would call it that, even though it's not swing, but it feels very improvised. But there are no solos on it, and it was just so. I thought that was just so great, and so I enjoy. That was kind of maybe the idea about that, behind that project that I did with Martin, the CD
Martin
you referred
Overgouw,
to.
the sax player, yeah.
So we made two albums, and especially the second one, it's really not about solo. There are hardly any solos on it. So it's just, music that we enjoy making, that it's really documenting the process. So we get together, I bring something. I bring a weird guitar or an amp that has a particular sound, or and we just follow the sound. So I just start jamming. I just play something, and or he plays something, or I have an idea, and we just make a track like that. So mostly it's done in a few hours. We have a track, and that's it.
Does it become more like a conversation then? Because you mentioned, okay, and now it's the solo. Show me what you can do. Music's supposed to be a thing of like, okay, tell, and I'll listen, right? And more natural than, okay, now you tell. And
I'm not sure that. I mean, there's always the there's the listening part, and there's the playing. Like playing for the listener, and it can be quite nice. That music that is where different soloists take their turns, and there's nothing wrong with it. But as a player, and having done that for a long time, I do at some point I don't know what to do anymore. Like in that same kind of setup where you have like a theme, and then there's a solo that comments on the theme, and then there's another solo. So, even though I still enjoy that and I do it, but, I always felt the need to explore other ways to play instrumental music.
Is that a way to keep things nice? Because I heard you say in an interview also once, big part of talent is that you have to like what you do, and able to keep liking the things you do, you need to explore new things, right?
Yeah. Some people don't, though. They are perfectly happy with, with maybe finding just new ways or adding new ways to what they're already doing, and take very small steps to find new things, or, but for me, I'm pretty broadly interested, I would say, in music. So for me, it's interesting to maybe more radically sometimes find completely different ways.
Back to the past.
Yeah.
For me, this is quite a special interview because the very first person I ever interviewed was you.
Yeah.
Back in college. And we talked about, I mentioned in the intro, Pat Martini tried to persuade your mom of going to New York. And I remember you mentioning it in that conversation back then as well. Like, you were at least considering or thinking about it, of moving there or not. Was not a concrete plan, but in the end, you didn't move there. Why not?
I did visit New York a lot, actually, and I spent some time there. But I don't think I just felt it was not for me somehow. There was a mentality of that musicians had, like, you have to go out every night, and you gotta sell yourself basically by going out and connecting to people, showing what you got on the jam sessions, and that way hoping for like a break or something. Somebody would give you a gig, and the whole hustling aspect of that, and having to go out every night and not being socially so smooth. I wasn't, especially at that time, I didn't see myself do that. And I saw a lot of people going for it. And just the whole social dynamic of people, like, interacting and see, who else is around, like who is more important than you that I'm talking to now. Like, like it's the whole, you know what I mean? It's like, it's like a little bit of a jungle, and you got to fight, for like getting attention from the right people. And I don't know. I couldn't see myself do that.
What was it really a choice? I'm not going, or did that like at one time?
It was pretty clear after a while that I would not do that. Yeah, it was for a while where I thought maybe I should do that. Like still a lot of young players either do that or think about it or try it. Or yeah.
But reflecting on that choice, it obviously feels good that you didn't do that, right? Or
I have no regrets for sure. I wouldn't know how my life would have been if I did. But no, I think I made the right choice, because for me, I mean, music is a essential part of my life, and it's super important to me. But if it would be the only thing, I don't think I would very long just be able to. I don't know. I would just lose interest, or I'd just be frustrated. And I like a healthy distance, and also have other things in my life going. Than music. Yeah, so I need the distance.
You have to take care of you also as a person. Then,
well, my needs are not just. It's not just music. It's not just playing, and not just. I can't do that. No, I whenever I like playing, I play, or when I have to, of course, when I have to have a concert, I'll gladly go there. But it's not like I'm spending the whole day on my guitar. No, I've never done that, really.
But what was difficult for you back then to because I can imagine it's also quite some pressure if Pat Metheny calls your mom, or everybody's saying, oh, you should go there, this is the momentum. Are you the kind of person that can gets pressure from that, or
not really? No, I've been pretty. I always thought I knew best. I was never bothered, but no, it didn't bother me that other people. I mean, everybody gives you advice constantly, right? So yeah,
is that in your family?
Yeah,
yeah.
My mom is just like that. Yeah, and my kids too. My son.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Right? So if you know something, then you know it.
I guess so. Yeah.
Well, it's a nice characteristic to have, I suppose, right? I mean,
yeah.
Or does it obstruct you something? Because part of musicianship is also searching, right?
With others, I see, it's not necessarily helping you, not taking advice. But when it comes to me, of course, I'm completely convinced that I'm right.
But because to me, it's interesting because, like I said, part of musicianship is searching, right?
Yes.
And that comes with insecurities.
Yeah.
So how does that characteristic relate to that? Because we're already
for me,
sure.
The searching is part of the fun. It's I like that. I like the searching, and it keeps me interested. If I would have found like this is what I do, and I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. Whenever I play, this is what I do. I would be very unhappy. I think it's just not in me. I don't know. I need to search and to enjoy it. Yeah. So it's not making me insecure actually. But of course, I'm insecure about my playing sometimes. And, of course, I mean, I know my limits, and I know like sometimes like I feel like, well, I'm not very good, I can play the guitar well, of course, but there's not like, I can't do everything people ask from me. I play a lot with people, and they're like, well, look, how about this? And like, wow, I can't do that. That's just too hard, or it's too, and you get a little insecure. But by now, I'm completely fine with my limits. I accepted it.
Yeah. How was that as a youngster? Did you think, okay, there is no limit, and if there is, I'm going to chase
No,
it?
I've always no, I don't know. Never to a point where it made me not enjoy playing. No.
Because back in the day, if you read all of the reviews of your first album and early gigs, it's a lot of.
I've had some bad reviews,
but it's mainly about the technique. They say, yes, great technique,
right?
And,
okay,
but the storytelling could have some attention,
right? Of course, as most young players, yeah.
So if you think of limits, that was more technical. From a technical point of view, instead of
no. Well, it's sometimes people bring very hard music that I cannot play, or I don't feel up to it. Like I don't know what to do. That happens, and that. So I guess if you ask me when are you insecure about playing, well, those are the moments. But I'm very accepting to whatever comes out is what it is. So I'll try my best and I'll try to play something interesting. And and it's completely fine if I don't match my own expectations. And I've learned to kind of get rid of my own expectations. I'll just try to jump in and see what comes out and accept.
Are there any people who taught you that, or can you elaborate
no, it's
a little
something
bit?
That I have like I said, I have sort of a healthy distance to playing. I think so. It's not the end of the world if I play bad. It's just what's the worst that can happen is that people don't like it. Well, that's okay with me. I don't care. I don't really care. I mean, I would rather they do, of course, but it's like those are. What can I do more than just try my best?
But did live taught you that, or like were there insights from other players that you kind of got like, I can accept.
But it's my taste. It's the people that I like listening to are mostly musicians that sound like that's how they are, or that's how they think about themselves. Like people that are not very much showing off or don't have a lot of prepared material that they are ready to deliver, to impress their listeners. Because that's something I don't quite enjoy as a listener. So I'm a big John Scofield fan, and I think he's the perfect example of somebody that's constantly just, kind of tries to play something in the moment. And it's very much about the way he plays the stuff that he wants to, that he reaches me as a listener, like not about like, and check out this and what I can do, and this, there's not a lot of show off. Peter Bernstein is another guitar that I greatly admire for that. Yeah. So, I guess I'm trying to play like that. Not like Peter or Scofield, but with that intention, like it shouldn't be about what I play and what I can play or showing off, like this is what you can do. But, toward maybe just more like focus on, like making it sound like reaching somebody on a emotional level rather than just kind of show what you can do.
I talked with Julian Larch about this as well, and he said like, yeah, whatever happens, and it's all equally valuable. I mean,
with the right intention, yeah.
Exactly.
If you just kind of think of other stuff and just play from automatic,
you have to be there.
Yeah, you have to be with the right intention and focus. I guess at least you know that if you're doing it right with the good intention, then you should be able to. You should accept what comes out.
You mentioned John Scofield. What did he mean in your career? Because you became friends, right? Or acquaintance. I don't know how to call it, but
I guess that's what it is.
Can you elaborate what he meant for you?
Well, I was very young when I heard his record. What's the name of it? Still Warm. I was in the 80s. So I was, I was like just exploring sort of, I didn't even know it was jazz, but I was just heard people playing other stuff than the blues scale.
Mm-hmm.
And then my teacher back then, he said, you should go to that place. There's this place in Utrecht called Aster. Now it's a club for dancing. I think back then it was still also, but they had gigs. And there were two Dutch players, two guitarists, Peter Thiehuis and Eve Albers.
Oh, yeah.
They played with, I think it was a quintet or quartet. I don't remember.
They are huge
those guys,
right?
Those guys, they made such a big impression on me. I was 15 or so. And then I read in the Music Maker, which is a magazine in Holland, and there were interviews in there. And with one of them, I don't remember with whom, there was an interview, and there's, one of the questions was like, who do you listen to? And then John Scofield was mentioned, and I just had never heard of it. I went to the library. Back then we had a library in the town where I lived, and with records. So I just, picked out a random John Scofield record. They had it. It was incredible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I really remember strongly that first, like the first tune, techno.
Oh.
Deep, 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 that tune. So it made this huge impression on me. And from that moment, like, this exists.
What is it, you think? Because you...
just the way he played and the notes he played.
Syncopation also, right? Of that tune, maybe?
Well, no, it was really just his voice and the notes that he played. And it was weird and super exciting to me. So I gotta know what's going on here. What is this? So that was really from that moment, I guess the obsession started.
Yeah. I can imagine it's also on an intellectual level intriguing, right? If you hear like, whoa, this is great.
For me, it was definitely an emotional experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah. That's interesting because it's also complex, right?
Well, that can, emotion is not just simple things.
No.
Like you can get.
That's why this series is called
complexity.
This series is called 60 Skills and the Truth. So
right.
It's kind of a wink to exactly that.
Yeah.
And that there is truth or emotion in complexity.
Yeah. I mean, if you listen to like, Bach and orchestral works of whoever, like can be super highly emotional experiences, even if you don't understand what's going on. And I mean, complexity for complexity's sake is nothing. I mean, it's uninteresting. So it has to serve a purpose, right? Complexity.
So the 15-year-old Jesse, about 15, with the record player, playing John Scofield. So then what happened? So then it started to become really serious for you?
Well, that's when I started investigating more, and trying to kind of play like that, which I had no idea what they were doing. I only knew the blues scale. And before that, I heard Brian May and Steve Ray Vaughan and Jimi Hendrix and, like Mark Knopfler.
Oh, yeah.
That's 80s. Yeah. And some, there was some, I remember really liking a guitar solo on the Lionel Richie too. Like, what's the name of the tune? I don't remember. And it turned out to be the guy from Toto.
Oh, Steve Lukather.
Yeah, Steve Lukather. It's a pretty killing solo. And he played some, interesting stuff there that I didn't know either. It's like, oh, this is different. It's really different. So, I started slowly figuring out that, but it took me a while because there was no information, of course, there was no internet. So, I didn't know what are they doing. I didn't know about harmony or, scales or whatever, nothing. So I just started listening to stuff and imitating and, then I had a classical guitar teacher. He had no idea about, jazz harmony or, like bebop language or whatever it is. So it took me a while to kind of, find my way. And
did they have more Scofield records in the library?
Yes. Yeah. No, from that moment on, I started like, finding everything and taping everything. Yeah.
In a way, it's easy to romanticize that era, right? But in a way, it's also focus wise, it was a good thing that you can land one album.
Yeah, if
that's it, right?
Yeah, if it's rare, if it's hard to find, it becomes more valuable.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I started listening. Like every record I found that I liked, or that I, like maybe after Scofield's, I heard the name Jimmy Rainey. So I don't know where I read it somewhere, I guess. So I got a record of Jimmy Rainey. I've listened so much to it. I just knew every note of that record. And I don't see that happen right now, unless maybe some people are, like intrigued by a certain record and they keep going back to it. So it still happens, but it's harder now because everything is available,
I miss the booklets of albums because I used to think, this drummer, where does he play more?
And get Tidal.
Ah, yeah, of course. Yeah. But on Spotify, it's
no,
you don't know who's drumming,
there.
right?
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
On Tidal, there's all cross-reference. So if you find a drummer, then you click on the drummer's name and bam, you see it.
That's a good advice.
Yeah, it's great.
Hey, so at one point you must have considered, okay, I want to go to conservatory. I want to make this an effort. I want to give it an effort. And can you elaborate a little bit on that? Like when you thought, okay, this is going to be the thing I'll be doing.
Yeah, so I didn't know that existed, of course. So once I found out that you could actually go and study jazz, it was obvious for me. Like that's what I'm going to do.
Any other plans that were,
Before that, I did a test on high school. Like, at some point you have to take tests. Like, what do you want to be later when you grow up? And then
jazz guitar player.
Yeah, there was no option. That was ridiculous. I just remember, do you like flowers? Yes. So one of the results was like, you could be a florist. No, and I liked writing. I had briefly thought about journalism or studying Dutch literature, because my mom is a Dutch teacher. I guess that's part of it. Yeah, no, but I never really considered that seriously. No, whenever I found out that that there's those schools, guitar or jazz schools exist. That
kind of created an extra box on the form, jazz guitar player. That's not a florist. the most famous florist in the Netherlands. Okay, but and how did your parents react? Like were they supportive?
Yeah, they were not super happy with it. Yeah, so I think now you got to think about I mean, it's only logical, but not to a point where they kind of you can't do it. No. They were very cool. I mean, they tried to advise me against it, but
okay, but
I didn't take it.
Yeah, but that says something about you, like you mentioned before. I'm quite secure. What I'm gonna and want to do.
Yes.
Yeah. So you had that already as a youngster.
I think so. Yeah.
So entering conservatory, like how was that for you? Was it like an ocean of information, or how did you perceive it? Or was it just time? Like because that's also
you're in a bubble of like-minded people that have the same interests. So you learn from each other. Of course, you learn. There's the school, the information you get, but it's a small part of it. I still see it like that. So I'm only playing a minor part in their whole, when I teach. It's mostly, hang out with people that are also crazy about that music, and they listen to music together, and then you point out different things that you hear in music that you like and why, So it's I think I learned most. That was really where I learned most of my, I guess. What I learned mostly is listening together to music and playing together, of course. I did a lot of playing together.
That's it. Because of when you're 18, your character gets built also, right? And I can imagine that must have been a great environment to to grow, so to say, with people listening together.
Yeah.
And becoming the person you became, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, you mentioned it's a small part of what I do, but you continue teaching from when you finished, basically.
Mm-hmm.
One of the students you had was Renier Baas.
Yeah.
He was also a guest. I can imagine. Oh no, let me rephrase that. Like, what does it do to you when you have a student like that? Because he's obviously very talented, right? And interesting person altogether. I can imagine not everybody is like that, right? You have somebody sitting across you and you think, there's something there.
Yeah. Well, in his case, I don't want to, he's a colleague. I mean, we both teach at that school,
yes.
and we played together, and he's what is so great about him is that he really felt the urge and the need to distinguish himself and find his own way, and that's pretty rare. I mean, there are a lot of people that can play very well guitar, but most of them don't have that particular insight and understanding. Like, you gotta come up with something original and something new. Hopefully, I don't know if you have to, but he wanted to, so that's mostly what I saw. And I don't know what part I played. I mean, hardly any, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as most people that play really well, I don't know. Do you know Ella Zerinja?
Yeah.
She was also a student at the school. I taught her same thing. She was, like there's so much drive from within.
Oh yeah.
You're just there, maybe kind of coaching. Like, hey, you could check this out, or, if you like listening to you from a distance, maybe you could, like this happens a lot, or that's it.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And the rest is like we play together and maybe something sticks, but yeah. But so the very talented students are the ones that you need to teach least, I would say, because they're going anyway. They're already moving and finding stuff on their own.
Does that energize you as well as a player and a musician to see those talents?
Yes. No, I love it. Yeah. As a teacher, I get, of course, a lot of, I feel like it feels like if I can make a difference to somebody, that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, all right, I've really contributed something. And when somebody just plays really great and knows exactly what they want, it's also fun because we can play together and it's great to see.
Yeah.
But my part is, of course, of a less importance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to talk about your music again. You released 2 albums with Maarten Hogenhuis. Great albums, conversations, so to say, with a guitar and a saxophone.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned it before. There was a period that you didn't release many, or didn't release albums in your own name, right? Jesse van Ruller. What happened in that period?
Yeah, well, at some point I felt like, I don't want to make more of the same. So I just started finding different stuff, so I've made two albums with a trio with, even it was not my name on the cover. It was a trio of bass and bass clarinet, chamber tones trio. But it's my tunes on there and also theirs, but it's, and, same with Maarten. It's a lot of my tunes, some of his, and our tunes that we wrote together. So that's more interesting to me at this moment. I don't feel like really recording more jazz tunes.
Mm.
It's different now. Like you don't really need, I feel like, you can't really make any money from making a CD. So it has to be, artistically, enriching for me as a maker, making it, there's no commercial, part in it. So, and it used to be different. So I did for my first, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 CDs, I guess. I made money and, it was like good incentive to make another one and I could tour with it, and,
in a way that's a good thing then, right? That it kind of brings it back to the core. You have to really, really want it And you have to make
for
it.
me in our little jazz bubble. That's I think how it is for most people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just and for me that's means like I want to. If I go into a studio and record music, it has to be something that I haven't done before. Otherwise, why would I do it? Would I make another CD with standards? Even though I played it live, but I enjoy that. I like playing it live. And nowadays, if you go to Spotify or to YouTube, you see all these gigs recorded. There's a lot of Bimhuis gigs that are completely, the whole thing is online. Like, why would I go to an expensive studio and record it and without the video? It sounds just as good. Mm-hmm. It's just unnecessary for me. Like, I don't see why I would do that.
So you made 2 albums with Maarten now.
Mm-hmm.
Were that the first 2 of more?
Who knows? Who knows? I don't know. We haven't talked about it yet.
Can you tell me something about other things you'll be doing in the recent or in the future, upcoming future?
Like recording or
just things you're going to do?
No, so we're in February now. So next month I'm doing another tour with Peter Bernstein in duo. So we go all over Europe and play the clubs in duo. Which is a lot of fun. We did it last year. What else?
Yeah.
A lot of bands that we play. We recorded with Jasper Blom. He's a saxophonist. We play with the Metropole Orchestra as a band. So that is coming up. Still playing with Maarten. I have my trio gigs. I play, in Europe with different trios. I have some guys in Scandinavia that I play with regularly. So I have some concerts coming up.
And you have some Italian tunes. You're learning
Italian folk tunes. Yeah, yeah. I'm playing in Italy, Spain. Pretty much, like a lot of different things. Yeah. So that's an ongoing thing. So I keep playing with a lot of the same people and different parts of Europe.
Okay. Are you satisfied where you are now?
Yeah.
It seems so. If I talk to you,
I'm satisfied with the amount of work I have, and especially since I have to be sort of careful with. I cannot travel all the time because I have a family and my wife works full time. She has a very responsible job, so we have to organize a lot for me to be away for 2 weeks. So I try to if I'm away for 2 weeks, then I try to be home for a month, and then I allow myself another little tour. So I have to divide it a little bit. So I can't just say yes to anything. And in the meantime, I need also time to investigate what I want. So I have some a recording project ongoing now that with a drummer, Martijn Vink, great drummer. I've been playing with him for a very long time.
Was he in your first album, right? Or not?
Not my first.
Oh, second maybe. Or
maybe, I don't remember.
Okay, but from the 90s.
Yeah. So so those things, like I try to come up with new ways to record, or maybe a new process of writing. So what we do is like we go into the studio together with only drums and guitar, and I have to either bring some tunes or we improvise, and I'll take it home and I listen to it and see like what I think is nice or works, and I'll try to add things to it, or maybe even bring it back to a studio, invite some other people. It's a different process than rehearsing a band and then going into a studio to just record it and release it, which is more of a live registration, right? And that way of making a CD, I've done a lot of that, and I don't really see now at this point like why I should do that more. So I'm looking for other ways to use the studio and to make CD as a separate outlet, So there's a live playing, And then the recording I try to come up with something that I would not do when I would play live. It's like something different.
Final question, because you mentioned I have a family now. Did you need to learn to focus while becoming a family man? And musicianship is like, okay, you need freedom in your head, I suppose, also, right? Can you tell me a little bit on how, as a family man, you found your focus as a musician? Because I can imagine it's not easy, right? Okay, you have a couple of hours now, and then you have things to do, and then you have 1 hour left maybe, and you're tired and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, it takes actually what it gave me is even more distance to my playing. So I'm no longer. I don't think I was, but you're even more not defined as a guitarist. So the guitar and me being a guitarist is not who I am. You know, I am somebody and I do that, but I also do other things. I'm a father. Like I have my kids and the domestic life and my interests, you know, like I read and I, you know, have my friends. And so it's the being not the most important person in your life, yourself, you know, being no longer the most important thing is pretty helpful, I think, for me. As a musician, yeah. So you can take a healthy distance and even more like, you know, accepting to whatever comes out is what it is. Yeah. So it helped that in that way it was good, but I don't think I was so much like that anyway, like seeing myself as a guitarist only, you know.
Yeah, well,
like not defined you by a guitar. Yeah,
it enriches you as a person, I suppose, right? Yeah,
yeah. So and when it comes to time, yeah, of course, there's not as much time. Yeah, but I'm not the person that practices for hours anyway. So yeah, I still have enough time. It's okay.
That's a nice ending. I still have enough time.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for this conversation.
You're welcome.
Jesse van Ruller, and listeners also. Thanks for listening.